morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Clap your hands, clap, clap, clap. Stomp your feet, stomp, stomp, stomp. Spin around, spin, spin, spin. Alright. Good morning, good morning, good morning. 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 Wash your hands, wash, wash, wash. Shake your hands, shake, shake, shake. Brush your teeth, brush, brush, brush. Alright. Good morning.
Oh man, is it a good morning? Is it?
Shitter's full.
Is it a good morning? Of course it is. Good morning in that. Yeah, good morning. It's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right. It's me, Uncle Lou, live for you on LouTube today. Thanks for watching. I mostly appreciate it also, and too, in addition to that as well, this is the Uncle Lou morning show. We do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 a.m. The call-in show, Tuesday, Thursday night, 10 p.m., and Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Appreciate you guys tuning in this morning. First of all, the Your Season is Over video is coming out today. You know what I did yesterday? Take a guess what I did yesterday. Absolutely nothing. The most energy I expended yesterday was about a 15-minute period around 1 o'clock when I drove about 3/4 of a mile that way to my favorite Chinese restaurant to pick up a to-go order and then right back home. I did literally nothing. And you know what? It was everything I thought it would be. It was amazing. My first day off since the last week of June. And it was great. And I don't regret it at all. But the Your Season is Over video will be coming out today. What else? Playoffs announced yesterday. No surprise in the top four. I guess there was some debate about 1 and 2, Ohio State and LSU. I don't think they could have got it wrong either way they went. Well, you know what it is? I think this is probably the first year, or maybe not the first year, but the first year in the last couple of years anyway. To me, there was no debate over the 4 teams, right? The last couple of years, there's been at least a little bit of debate about who should be 4 or who should be 5, right? You had Ohio State going like 12-1 a couple of years and not getting in, and people thought maybe they should have got the 4 seed. There were some people who thought Georgia should have got the 4 seed last year. I wasn't one of those people, but there were some people that thought that. This year, there was really no debate over who the 4 teams were, and usually there's a clear-cut number 1. So this year was kind of the opposite. There was no debate over who the 4 teams were going to be. You knew who the 4 teams were going to be by the end of the first quarter of the Georgia-LSU game. The debate became as LSU blew Georgia out and then Ohio State came back and handled Wisconsin in the second half. The debate became who should be 1 and who should be 2. That was really it. And I don't think they could have got it wrong either way between Ohio State or LSU, 1 or 2. I think if the LSU-Georgia game would have been closer, maybe they would have left Ohio State at 1, but because it was so one-sided, I think they felt like they had to move LSU up to number 1. And it is a big deal. Well, let me say this a couple of different ways. Number one, before I say this, let me say this. If you make the playoffs, you shouldn't care what seed you are, because if you're good enough to make the playoffs, in theory, you should be good enough to compete or beat whoever you play. I mean, to win a national title or a playoff game, you got to beat a good team. Now, some playoff teams are better than others, obviously, but the point is, in a 4-team playoff, it shouldn't matter what seed you are or who you play. With that being said, though, you would rather play Oklahoma than Clemson, right? I'm talking about LSU and Ohio State. You would rather play Oklahoma, but I don't feel sorry for Ohio State or anything that they have to play Clemson. I mean, if you make the playoffs, you got to play a good team. Period. So I understand why Ohio State fans wanted to be number 1 so bad, but it shouldn't matter. If you make the playoffs, you're in the playoffs. You're going to have to beat a good team, whether it's round 1 or a championship game. You're going to have to beat a good team regardless. So it really shouldn't matter. But so we have LSU number 1 versus Oklahoma number 4, and then we have Ohio State number 2 versus Clemson number 3. I don't even know if the lines are out for the games. I have no idea, but I can tell you with pretty good certainty right now, I'd be willing to guess that LSU is going to be a significant favorite over Oklahoma. LSU is a 7-point favorite over Georgia. Is that right? They'll be double digits over Oklahoma, I would assume. Oklahoma's going to go another year without winning a playoff game. They're just not going to beat LSU. Oklahoma gets to the playoffs based off offense alone. That's it. And LSU has a better offense this year than Oklahoma does, period. Oklahoma's offense is not as good this year as it has been the last 2 years. Their defense is better, but it's not good enough. I've seen all the troll comments over the last couple of days about how Georgia's defense is no good. You're just an idiot if you think that. Georgia has one of the best defenses in America, and you saw what happened. So LSU is going to absolutely destroy Oklahoma. Ohio State versus Clemson, that's a much harder game to pick. Those are, in my opinion, and this isn't, well, it doesn't matter. People are going to say it anyway. This has nothing to do with the fact that we lost LSU. I've been saying this for 2 months now. Ohio State and Clemson are the 2 best teams. They're the only 2 complete teams in the playoffs. LSU's defense, is LSU's defense playing a lot better now than it was earlier in the year? I don't know. Is Georgia's offense just really that bad? Well, yeah, Georgia's offense is bad. But it's hard to know about LSU's defense because Georgia's offense is so bad. So, but in any case, LSU's defense is not as good as Clemson's or Ohio State's. I still think Clemson and Ohio State are the two best teams, and I think that will be an amazing game. I think Clemson has a little bit of an advantage in the experience category in that everyone on their team has been here before. Not very many people, maybe nobody on Ohio State's team has been here. Well, would they make it in 15, 16, 17? So if there's a redshirt senior on Ohio State's team, maybe I guess they would have been in the playoffs in 2015, but they probably didn't play. So I think Clemson has an advantage experience-wise. I think Ohio State has an advantage in terms of like competition this year, but that didn't matter last year. I mean, Clemson's catching a lot of heat for, the whole who have they played thing, but it was the same thing last year, and Clemson rolled through the playoffs like no one was even there. I mean, they blew out Notre Dame and then they blew out Alabama. Could they do that again? Maybe. But I don't know. I think Ohio State's a really good team too. So I do think Clemson and Ohio. I think whoever wins the Clemson-Ohio State game, and again, I have 30 days here to think this stuff through. But so these are just my initial thoughts here. I think LSU will roll over Oklahoma. I think Ohio State-Clemson will be a really good game. It's hard to pick a winner there right now. But I think whoever wins the Ohio State-Clemson game probably wins it all. I'm an SEC homer, so I guess I'll be – well, I have a couple of rooting interests here. I'm an SEC homer, so I guess I'll pull for LSU in that regard. And as high as I've been on Ohio State and singing Justin Fields' praises and all that, if you've been paying close attention, I've been saying this since – last January, when Justin Fields transferred or announced he was transferring to Ohio State, the absolute worst case for Georgia, the absolute worst case scenario is that Ohio State wins a national title with Justin Fields while Jake Fromm is sitting on the couch watching. That's the worst case scenario. So I've got to pull against Ohio State. So I'm probably going to get a lot of hate from Ohio State fans over the next 30 days who are going to magically forget all the good things I said about their team all year long, and I still think Ohio State's a great team. I just have to pull against them because I just think it's a nightmare scenario. I'll get into the situation at Georgia in a minute, but the worst case scenario is for Kirby Smart and Jake Fromm to have to sit at home and watch Justin Fields hoist a national title trophy at Ohio State. That's just the worst case scenario, not just because of the way it looks, but I think it has future consequence. I think it has consequences down the road because it's just an impossible storyline and situation to ignore. Georgia fans get mad at me because I talk about it a lot, but how can you not? How can you not? And on top of that, take the LSU game out of it if you want to. I'm talking about Georgia now. Pretend the LSU game never happened if you want to. Fromm played bad the majority of this year. He just did. He just played bad the majority of this year. The one crutch that people always use to prop him up was his completion percentage. Well, he ended the season with 5 straight games under 50% completion. In both of Georgia's losses, he had multiple turnovers. 4 against South Carolina, 2 against LSU. And the 2 against LSU were really, really bad. There was a lot of argument after the South Carolina game amongst Georgia fans about how many of those 4 turnovers that Fromm had were actually his fault. There's no arguing the ones in the LSU game. Those were 100% Fromm's fault. The interception he threw down the sideline there was probably the best pass he threw all night. But the problem is he threw it right to LSU. It was a terrible decision to throw the ball. It was a bad pass. It was underthrown. I mean, he literally threw it right to the guy. And then the second interception, he doesn't have the arm to make that throw against the caliber of a corner like Stingley. And that second interception was a lot like the interceptions he threw against Carolina. You're like, why are you even throwing it to someone who's being covered by that guy? If you remember, the same guy in the South Carolina game had all the interceptions. I'm like, quit throwing it over there. So, but anyway, he just played terrible. He played absolutely awful. But it's not just the LSU game. It was all year. Outside of a handful of plays in a handful of games, he played bad all year long. Even the Florida game, which he gets a lot of praise for because he had 3 touchdown passes. How many did he miss in that game? And so this is just the worst case here. Georgia's season ends in a game where Fromm played absolutely terrible. And then as soon as that game ends, we have to turn the Ohio State game on and watch Justin Fields go for 300 yards passing, 40 or 50 yards running, 3 or 4 touchdowns, win the game, win the Big Ten title, punch their ticket to the playoffs. He was the MVP of the Big Ten title game, Justin Fields was. And Georgia fans have to sit back and watch that, and it's hard to stomach. Now, it's easier for me to stomach because it's not a surprise to me. I have been singing this same tune really since August of 2018. I haven't been a Fromm fan from the get-go. It just blows my mind the amount of people who can watch the last 3 years of Georgia football and still toot Jake Fromm's horn. It just I don't understand it. And some of them are just the fans that never want to criticize anybody, and there's just nothing you can do about those people. You know, the people that they'll never criticize anybody. You know these people. Oh, they're kids. Leave them alone. You can't do any better, that kind of thing. But some of them, it's just an infatuation with Fromm, because some of these Georgia fans who are still tooting his horn, I've seen them criticize other players. They hated Joe Cox. They hated Grayson Lambert. Jawan Briscoe, a defensive back we had in 2016, is one of the worst starting players at any position that Georgia's ever had. He got hammered week in and week out by the fans. Tyler Catalina, a left tackle from a couple of years ago. I've seen some of these people criticize players before, but for some reason they just refuse to do it. They with Jake Fromm, and it just blows my mind. I just don't see how people can continue to make excuses for him. He's worse now than he was in 2017. Why? Well, in 2017, we had a loaded offense. We had 2,000-yard running backs, both of which are having success in the NFL, both of which got drafted very highly into the NFL, 2 of the best running backs we've ever had, right? We had Javon Wims, who wide receiver, who got drafted for the Bears after that season. You had Miko Hardman, Terry Godwin, Riley Ridley. Fromm wasn't making those players better. They were making him better. They made him look better than he was. Okay, 2018, I think he had a little step back last year, but he still had all those same receivers. But then this year, you just see, without elite players surrounding Fromm at every single position, he's just an average to below average quarterback. He just is. He just is. And I said a lot of this stuff in the video after the game, but that was a long video, so maybe maybe some of you didn't watch it all. I said a lot of this stuff in that video after the game, but, all those runs that Joe Burrow had where it looked like we were going to sack him and he got away. I mean, how many times did he do that? 10 or whatever? Every single one was a run for a first down. If the tables are turned and that's Jake Fromm, it's a 10 or 15-yard sack on every one of those plays. He just doesn't have so he can't move. It's not that he's not a dual threat. He's not mobile. He cannot move around in the pocket at all. He got sacked Saturday. By a defensive lineman that was crawling on his belly. Literally, a defensive lineman fell down, crawled on his belly to Jake Fromm, and sacked him by flicking him in the shoelaces. It's just hard to watch. So he doesn't have, this is an extreme example, but like Peyton Manning's not that mobile, but he has an all-world arm. So you deal with the immobility because he's got one of the best arms in history. Fromm's does not have a good arm. He's not mobile. He's short. He's just not very good. I mean, that's just it. And I know I'm banging my head against the wall because if there's anybody that doesn't know that now, they're never going to know that. They're never going to admit it. So I know I'm banging my head against the wall. And I'm not even reading the comments. I'm sure if there's any Fromm nut huggers in there, they're talking about drop passes. Yes, We suffered from drop passes. Did you watch the game? Because LSU had some drop touchdown passes too. The difference is the other 95% of the throws that Burrow makes are right on the money on a rope. So everyone has drop passes. LSU had drop passes in that game, some of which that would have been touchdowns. Georgia did too. The point is that happens in every single game. You can't prop a quarterback up for an entire season based off of some dropped passes. I mean, if you just don't know it about Jake Fromm by now, then you're just never going to know it, period. So that's that. Now, so there should be nobody left at this point that feels like I'm making any excuses for Georgia's loss. I don't know. There shouldn't be because I didn't and I don't make any excuses for Georgia's loss. LSU was clearly the better team, and there was no way Georgia was winning that game on Saturday. No, you know, sometimes you lose by a score or two. You can point to a couple of things. There's nothing to point to here. LSU was clearly the better team. With that being said, I will say this. If what's the running back's name for LSU? Hilaire? Edwards Hilaire? If he didn't play, if Jamar Chase didn't play, if Justin Jefferson didn't play, would the outcome have been different? No, LSU still would have won. But LSU's offense wouldn't have been as dangerous as it was. So it did hurt Georgia to have all those players out, obviously. That's not the reason we lost, though. So I think both things can be true. I think an objective person can look at this game and go, you got a team here that's missing, really its only good running back. Their top, how many wide receivers were we missing? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. We entered yesterday's game with 5, or we entered Saturday's game with 5 healthy wide receivers. 2 were injured in the first half. We went to halftime of the game against LSU with 3 healthy wide receivers. And then we got Pickens back in the second half. That gave us 4. So, would it have mattered to the outcome of the game? No. LSU clearly way better than Georgia. But there is also some truth to the fact that maybe the offense plays a little bit better if they're not missing, 4 of their best 6 offensive players. Maybe they play a little bit better. No way Georgia wins that game, though. No way. Kirby comes out and does the usual song and dance after the game, blaming everybody and everything other than Fromm. Kirby just refuses to say a negative or even critical word about Fromm. He just refuses. And I know why. It's because he knows he's forever tied to him. Kirby is tied to whatever success Fromm has or doesn't have. And right now, listen, anybody with a clear brain, clear mind, and that's not just a total idiot, clearly knows the wrong choice was made at quarterback, right? I've been saying it for a long time, even before there was clear proof or evidence. There's no, and honestly, I wish Kirby would man up, honestly, and take a little bit more responsibility. I really do. If our wide receivers are terrible, like some of the excuse makers want to say, that's whose fault is that? Recruit better wide receivers. I don't know what to tell you, but and I don't even buy into that. George Pickens is a 5-star. D-Rob is a 5-star. Blaylock was almost a 5-star, very high 4. He got hurt, but still, it's not like he had a great year before that. Tyler Simmons is probably worse today than he was the minute he stepped foot on campus. How and why and who decided to give Matt Landers a scholarship? This guy, for 3 years, all he's done is drop passes. So, it just becomes, I don't know. It's frustrating to listen to Kirby Smart, and I think I understand why he's doing it. I think he's so afraid to say anything negative about the quarterback play because he knows the very next question is going to be, well, then why is Justin Fields at Ohio State? I mean, what? Like, I just like I watch those press conferences and I find myself like I literally wish a reporter would almost run up there, grab him by the shoulders and shake him and just go, what were you thinking? Because there is no way that Justin Fields was as bad as he was made out to be last year at UGA, and then moving a couple of boxes from Athens to Ohio State suddenly made him an amazing quarterback. That's just not true. Fields' talent is obvious, evident, and apparent to anybody with a set of eyes, and he was never given an opportunity. And Fromm beat out 2 5-star QBs. Fromm sent 2 5-star QBs. Fromm didn't beat out anybody. Nobody. Fromm never beat out anybody. When Fromm and Eason were both healthy heading into the 2016 season, who won the starting job? Eason. So, no, he didn't beat out Eason. And Fields was never given an opportunity. Jesus Christ. Did anybody watch Georgia last year? I mean, what they were doing with Justin Fields is got to be one of the dumbest things in the history of college football, period. And it just culminated. You know, it was irritating when it happened, but looking back on it now, Justin Fields' career at UGA couldn't have ended in an any more poetic way than that fake punt thing that they tried to do with him against Alabama in the SEC title game. That was the perfect ending to Justin Fields' career at UGA, because that one play just completely sums up how bad Kirby and company completely have screwed up the quarterback situation at UGA. And I'll tell you something else too. No matter, I could sit here and talk like this all off season long. Guess who's starting every single game at quarterback next year? Doesn't matter how good Mathis could get cleared tomorrow. He won't start a game next year, barring injury or death to Jake Fromm. Mathis will not start a game. Carson Beck could come in and be the greatest thing since Joe Montana. He won't start a single game next year at Georgia, barring death or injury to Jake Fromm. Period. There's nothing that is going to remove Jake Fromm from the starting quarterback position at the University of Georgia other than injury, death, or running out of eligibility. That's literally it. That's the only thing. All right, let me read some super chats, and then I got plenty more to say. Celine Driver, thank you for the super chat, sir. I really appreciate that. He says, I'm uploading a video that you suggested today about where to buy watches. So thank you for that idea. I hope you'll watch and enjoy. Yeah, I'll check it out. Thank you. And thank you for the super chat. Waikiki, thank you, sir. I was disappointed in the other New Year's 6 bowl games. For me, not excited matchups outside of the playoffs. I'm more excited about some of the other bowls than a New Year's 6. I'm going to be honest with you. Outside of the playoffs and Georgia playing Baylor, I have no clue who anyone else is playing. When I say I didn't do anything yesterday, I did nothing. So I'm going to pull up the bowl matchups here in a few minutes, and we're going to go through them. But I don't have a clue who's playing who. Jay Rizzle Drizzle, thank you for the super chat. He says, as an LSU fan, getting number 1 was nothing more than a moral victory. UJ, best defense in the country, couldn't stop us, and I don't foresee anyone being able to stop us. Haters already hating. Try and outscore us. That's what's going to happen in the Clemson. No matter who you play, Clemson or Ohio State, I would expect it to be a high-scoring game. Both offenses are amazing. All 3 of those offenses are amazing. 2 of those teams have good defenses, so we'll see how it goes. Fun fact: LSU has 3 natties: 1958 over Clemson, Oklahoma 2007, and Ohio State. New Orleans bound, go Tigers. That's a huge advantage for LSU to the games in New Orleans. Georgia had that same advantage in 2017 with the game being in Atlanta. Didn't seem to matter for us, but nothing seems to matter for Georgia when it comes to national titles, so that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. But good luck, sir. Logan Jackson, thank you for the super chat. Matt Luke set to replace Sam Pittman. Hopefully he'll help more than just our O-line. We'll see. I'm going to talk about Pittman and some coaching stuff, too, in a minute. Eli Arbiza, thank you for the super chat. Will Mike Norvell make FSU great again? It's possible. I do think Mike Norvell's a good coach. And somebody was going to get him. It might as well be Florida State. Dang it, man. Thank you for the super chat. Well, at least he can beat UF. Go Gators. Yeah, I mean, there are from a purely win-loss standpoint, Fromm has done well. But here's the problem: every single junior, like people keep saying, well, he's 3-0 against Florida, he's 3-0 against Tennessee, he's 2-1 against South Carolina, he's 3-1 against Auburn. That's great. Every junior on our team has that same record. Doesn't mean they're amazing. Okay, every single junior on our team has that same record against those teams. So. Again, I'm more than willing to listen to anyone that can show me and point out to me any games for Georgia over the last 3 years that Jake Fromm has won. Where you go, Jake Fromm won us that game. I'd be more than willing to listen to you or hear you out, because there's not very many. Jake Fromm, I'll say it again, if surrounded with elite talent all over the field, Jake Fromm won't lose you any games. Or he'll lose you very few. Okay? He's not going to win you any. He's not going to win you any. Stetson Bennett is a trash can, okay? Had Jake Fromm been hurt the day before the SEC championship game and Stetson Bennett played every snap of that game, how much worse would Georgia have done? None. If Joe Burrow had been hurt before that game, how much worse would LSU would? Worse. Why? Joe Burrow is an elite, game-changing playmaker. Joe Burrow is what makes that offense go. Justin Fields at Ohio State, Trevor Lawrence at Clemson. These are elite quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts at Oklahoma. Look at the 4 quarterbacks left right now and compare those 4 to Jake Fromm. That's why we're not in the playoffs. That's why. Quarterback play. That's it. All right, let me pull up the. I guess I'll pull up the bowl thing because I'm just curious. I haven't, like I said, I haven't even looked at it. So, where can I find this at? Let's see. Will this work? Let me try this. All right, here you go. December 20th, the Makers Wanted Bahamas Bowl, Buffalo versus Charlotte. These predictions that I give here, I'm not going to give any reason, rhyme, or explanation, and this is just off the top of my head here. So when I do the actual prediction videos coming up over the next 30 days, that's the actual prediction. This is just initial thoughts here, but give me Buffalo there. The Tropical Smoothie Cafe Frisco Bowl, Utah State versus Kent State. Give me Utah State there. December 21st, it's a celebration, bitches. Celebration Bowl, Alcorn State versus North Carolina A&T. Give me Alcorn State. New Mexico Bowl, Central Michigan versus San Diego State. Give me San Diego State. Cure Bowl, Liberty versus Georgia Southern. Oh, hell, there's no chance I'm taking Liberty and that degenerate Hugh Freeze. Give me the hometown boys and Georgia Southern. What is this? The Foreign Language Bowl? Cheribundi Boca Raton Bowl, SMU versus Florida Atlantic. Give me SMU. Florida Atlantic will be without a coaching staff for that game. So give me SMU. Lane Kiffin. Gone. We'll talk about the coaches too in a minute. Camellia Bowl, Florida International versus Arkansas State. Florida International must be really good because they beat Miami. Give me Arkansas State. The Mitsubishi Motors Las Vegas Bowl, Boise State versus Washington. Okay, let me take a minute and talk about this. This is what they need to be doing. This is the kind of game they need to be giving us in these mid-level bowls or low-level bowls, whatever you want to call this. I know Chris Peterson quit Washington, which is weird, real weird. But this is the general idea of what they should be trying to do. He used to coach at Boise State. He put Boise State on the map it's interesting, or it would be if he didn't quit, to see him go back now and play that team. That's what they should be doing, because no one is watching these bowl games. So they should be doing more stuff like this. Give me Boise State. App State versus UAB. I'll take App State. But this could be a really good game. But I'm going to take App State. The R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. The Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl. UCF versus Marshall. I'm going to take UCF, but that's tough. UCF not the team they were the last couple of years. The Sophie Hawaii Bowl. Hawaii versus BYU. Zero chance I'm taking that. It just won't happen. Give me Hawaii. This is hilarious. Is this the first time an actual bowl game has trolled walk-ons? Shout out to Miami for making it to the walk-on bowl. Oh boy, am I going to have some fun with this one. I fully expect to make probably an entire series of videos just on this bowl game alone. What are they? I have never seen a bowl, like an actual bowl game, troll one of the teams involved. But here it is. The Walk-Ons Independence Bowl featuring the new Miami. Oh, boy. That's great, too. I'm going to have some fun with that, too. Quick Lane Bowl. Pittsburgh versus Eastern Michigan. Give me Pitt. The Military Bowl, North Carolina versus Temple. You know what? I think I'm probably going to take Temple there. I think North Carolina, well, never mind. But I think Temple's going to win. I'll say that now. Michigan State versus Wake Forest. This is interesting. Wake Forest scored a ton of points this year, although not a very good team. Michigan State does have a really good defense, although not a very good team. Just saw a game featuring something similar, and the offense won. So give me Wake Forest. Academy Sports and Outdoors Texas Bowl, Oklahoma. Now here you go. This is another good one too. Geographical rivals, maybe not traditionally, but this is an interesting game to me. I'm going to take Texas A&M in that one. Again, these are just my these aren't official predictions. These games come around and half these players are sitting out and all that kind of stuff. I'll probably end up changing a lot of these. But for now, Texas A&M is who I would lean towards. San Diego County Credit Union Holiday Bowl, USC versus Iowa. I may take Iowa in that one. Cheez-It Bowl. Cheez-It Bowl. Air Force versus Washington State. Probably lean Washington State in this game, although I always pull for the service academies, which Army-Navy game coming up this Saturday. And I've been watching that game since I was 7 years old, probably because it's always come on like this. The season is basically over, and then they have one more week, and it's just the Army-Navy game. So I've been watching that game forever. I'll watch it again next Saturday. But I would probably lean Washington State here, although I'll be pulling for Air Force. Camping World Bowl, Notre Dame versus Iowa State. It'd be a pretty good game, too. I'll probably go with Notre Dame here. All right, we're getting to some good ones now. Cotton Bowl, Memphis versus Penn State. This is tough because I do think Memphis is a pretty good team, but I also think Penn State's a pretty good team. this could be one of those things that comes down to motivation, and that is so hard to predict. Memphis is going to be – this is the Super Bowl for Memphis. This is the highest you can get as a Group of 5 team, right? This is UCF from 2 years ago when they showed up and beat Auburn, right? I think Penn State's the better team. What type of motivation will they have for this game, though? And again, I can almost guarantee you that no one is going to sit this game out for Memphis. I'd be willing to bet because again, this is like a Power 5 team making the playoffs. If you're Memphis and you make a New Year's Six bowl, that's the playoffs for you. I would be surprised if anybody sits out for Memphis. What about Penn State? So for now, I'm going to take Penn State in this game because I think they're the better team. But again, this may be one of those that I change by the time I do an actual preview for this game because motivation and players sitting out could be a huge factor in this game. Clemson versus Ohio State. Man, do I have to do a pick on this one now? I tell you what, for right now, I'm going to pick Ohio State because I've had them ranked ahead of Clemson in my poll all year long. So, again, I'm doing full previews and predictions of all these games as they get closer. And I may change my mind by the time that comes around. But initial thoughts off the top of my head, just to be consistent on how I've been ranking Clemson and Ohio State all year, I'm going to pick Ohio State for now. Again, I'll be pulling for Clemson in this game because I just think if you think things can't get any worse for Georgia right now, you're wrong. Because if Ohio State beats Clemson and Justin Fields has 300 yards and 3 or 4 touchdowns, then all these conversations are going to come right back up again. So, but anyway, that's my initial thoughts on that game. What do they pick? They picked Clemson 34-30, so they picked it to be a close game. Oklahoma at LSU, LSU by 50. They don't think it's going to be close either. The Serve Pro First Responder Bowl, Western Kentucky versus Western Michigan. I'll take Western Michigan. Franklin American Mortgage Music City Bowl, Mississippi State versus Louisville. I'll probably take Louisville there. I'm not high on Mississippi State, and I don't like their head coach, and for some reason they decided to keep him. I'll probably go with Louisville there. Cal versus Illinois. Cal. I don't even have to think twice about that. I forgot Illinois had a team. So did y'all. Capital One Bowl, Florida versus Virginia. My initial thoughts here obviously are Florida. Listen, the ACC is not that good. Virginia is a one-man band on offense. Again, we'll see when these games come around who is sitting out and all those kinds of things. But initial thoughts is that Florida, this could be a lot like last year's Florida-Michigan game where Florida just destroys them. Virginia Tech versus Kentucky. Now, this is an interesting game here. Virginia Tech versus Kentucky. Virginia Tech was better all this year than people thought they were. Not great, though. This is an interesting game, though. I'm probably leaning Kentucky. This is a tough one, though. My initial thoughts on this one is this is like an either-way type of game. Who'd they pick? They picked Kentucky in a close one, 29-24. Tony the Tiger. They're great! Sun Bowl, Florida State versus Arizona State. Florida State's an absolute disaster. The AutoZone Liberty Bowl, Navy versus Kansas State. I would lean Kansas State here, but again, I'll be pulling for Navy. I'll always pull for the Service Academy. The only way I would ever root against a Service Academy is if I had to because they were playing Georgia. That's literally it. I'll go for I think Kansas State, my initial thoughts are that they will win this game, but I'll, of course, be pulling for Navy. The Nova Home Loans Arizona Bowl, Wyoming versus look. Now here's an example of where the committee dropped the ball. They should. Who should be right here? What team should that be to make this an interesting game? What team should that be? That should be Tennessee. That would make no one's going to watch. 18 people will watch this game. If that. 4:30 on the okay, never mind. 4:30 on the CBS Sports Network. Never mind. 8, not 18. 8. 8 people will watch this game. I'm not trying to disrespect either of these teams here, but no one is watching this. See, I bet there's probably only a handful of people watching this video right now that can even name right now off the top of their head what channel CBS Sports Network comes on at your house. No one's watching this, but this should be Tennessee. Then everyone would watch. This is what I'm talking about with the ball. They need to come up with ways to make these games interesting, and this would be interesting. Right? Tennessee fans keep saying over and over again, if we played Georgia State again, we'd beat them. They should give us what we want to see. This should be Tennessee, but it's not. Utah versus Texas. Utah will destroy Texas. Destroy. This will be a blowout. They don't see it that way. I do. That game will be a blowout. Citrus Bowl? What? How many Alabama fans will be in the crowd at this game? Answer, 0. Michigan versus Alabama. With that being said, though, you know what? Michigan wins. Michigan wins that game. When's the last time Alabama won a bowl game that wasn't a playoff or national championship game? I know they lost to Oklahoma the year they got stuck in the Sugar Bowl when it wasn't a natty or playoff. They lost to Utah when it wasn't a natty or a playoff. I'll go with Michigan here. I don't know what the motivation factor here for Alabama is going to be. Where are they ranked? 13th? Pitiful. Sad. Outback Bowl, Minnesota. Okay. Now this is interesting here. This is what you have to look for when you're trying to pick bowl games, because you can't just simply, you cannot, not in modern football anyway, you can't pick winners of these games based solely off who you think the better team is. Because I'll tell you right now, I think Auburn's a better team than Minnesota. Minnesota, I think, will be happy to be in this bowl. Even though it's not a New Year's Six bowl, this is a better bowl than Minnesota makes 99 times out of 100. I think they will be motivated. I also think they have a much better coach. We've seen Auburn. Auburn has struggled in bowl games under Gus Malzahn. I think they only have 2 bowl wins under Gus Malzahn. Last year, and then I think 2014 or something, they won a Belk Bowl or something. Right now, I would lean Minnesota in this game. Again, I do think Auburn's the better team, but that has very little to do with picking some of these mid-tier bowl games a lot of times. So my initial pick is Minnesota. We'll see when I do the previews if I change my mind. Oregon, Wisconsin. I'm going to go Wisconsin. No way Justin Herbert plays in this. Will Justin Herbert play in this game? Will Jonathan Taylor play in this game? Man, I hope Jonathan Taylor. Listen, I don't like these players sitting out. I don't like it. I know why they do it. I understand why they do it. That doesn't mean I have to like it or agree with it. And I don't like it, and I don't agree with it. If you sit your bowl game out, you're quitting on your team, your fans, your university, your teammates. But anyway, but these are 2 first-round picks here, Justin Herbert and Jonathan Taylor. Will they play in this game? I don't know. My initial thoughts are to go with Wisconsin, but we'll see. That's one I'm going to have to look closely at. Now, why they show this bum? Look at this. Jesus Christ. Georgia versus Baylor in the Sugar Bowl. Baylor by about 40. There's 0 chance Georgia wins that game. I mean, after what I saw last year, there's no way I can pick Georgia in that game right now. Maybe I'll see something over the next couple of weeks or whatever that will give me some confidence that Georgia can win. But after what I saw last year and the way the season ended again this year, and all, no way. I would imagine, who's Georgia going to have on offense? Not DeAndre Swift ain't going to play. Andrew Thomas, left tackle, he might not play. Will Isaiah Wynn play? Will J.R. Reed play? Will Cager play? Cager will play if he's healthy. I don't know if he can get healthy in time for this game, but if he can, Lawrence Cager will play because I think he still needs to try to impress the NFL, and this is his last year of eligibility. So I think if there's a way Lawrence Cager can play, he would play. Blaylock's not going to play. He tore his ACL. Tyreek Stevenson's not going to play. He got injured in the LSU game. Yeah, Baylor by 40. Boston College versus Cincinnati. Cincinnati will, in my opinion, destroy Boston College, and it won't even be close. Indiana versus Tennessee in the Gator Bowl. I'm going to go Tennessee. They got it. They have it close. Indiana was a surprising team this year. They were better, I think, than some people thought they would be. Motivation should be really high for Tennessee, though, even though it's just the Gator Bowl, because it's been a couple of years since they even made a bowl game. The most important thing for Tennessee, and really for any team, we can talk about the bowls don't matter except the playoffs. And I guess in terms of winning a national title, that's true. But I can tell you who absolutely loves making a bowl game, regardless of what bowl game it is, the coaches. Why? 15 extra practices. Any coach, and that might not sound like a big number to you, that's a huge number. That is a huge number of practices. 15 extra practices a year is huge. If you don't understand that, then you don't understand college football. That's the biggest thing for Tennessee making a bowl game is 3 weeks of practice. 3 weeks of extra practice. And I think they'll win. The motivation should be high for Tennessee. I think they'll win that one. Famous Idaho Potato Bowl featuring half the people in my comments section versus Jake. That's who this game should be. Half the people in my comments section versus Jake Fromm fans. That would be the ultimate Potato Bowl. Give me Nevada in this game, though. Southern Miss versus Tulane. I'll take Tulane in that one. Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. Lending Tree Bowl. Louisiana versus Miami of Ohio. Give me Miami of Ohio. Their prediction has Clemson versus LSU in the national title game, with LSU winning by 1. They even go so far as to say how it'll happen. They say Joe Burrow will throw 2 fourth-quarter touchdown passes, including the game winner to Justin Jefferson in the final minute. So there you have it. So everybody that thinks everything is rigged by ESPN, you should run out right now, put all your money on LSU to win the national title by 1 point, and you'll make a killing because everything is rigged by ESPN, according to the Velcro shoe-wearing, mouth-breathing retards. Right? Right. Anyway, let me pull the comments back up. CBS Network free with 24/7 sub. I don't know what that means unless you're talking about 24/7 sports, which if you're paying for a subscription to 24/7 sports, what are you doing? Jesus Christ. I can't believe there's still people that actually pay to be members at Rivals and Scouts and all this kind of. Maybe that's not what you're talking about. I don't know. I sort of hope it's not, but if it is, you do you, bro. Yeah. Ryan Sherlin, thank you for the super chat. I hear Chase Young is looking for someone to drive his girlfriend out to Arizona. Chase Young not playing around, but no, that ain't gonna happen this year. I wouldn't look for that to happen again. It would be funny. He's not that dumb. He can't be that dumb. Chase Young, grown man. He's going to be problems. I don't care how good of an offensive line. Who's Ohio State playing Clemson? You better come up with a plan for Chase Young, Tater. That's all I can tell you. Tell the Tater that right now. Your offensive game plan better revolve around doing something about Chase Young. Dude is an absolute animal. An animal. It's unbelievable how good he is. Thoughts on Bobo? My thoughts on Bobo are this. I don't think he's going to come to Georgia for a variety of reasons. Number one, I'm not convinced Kirby actually wants him. Because I'm still not convinced Kirby has learned any lessons. And to me, if you hire Bobo, that's a step in the right direction. Number one, I like Mike Bobo as an offensive coordinator. But number two, it shows me that you're willing to actually hire a real offensive coordinator. Bobo is not somebody that's going to come into Athens and get bossed around and told what to do. And that's what Kirby has been looking for in Athens so far. That's why he promoted James Coley. James Coley is a friggin' coffee boy for Kirby Smart. That's it. And that's why Kirby promoted him. I mean, they've been friends since 2001, 2002, whatever it was, and he knows he can sort of boss him around type of thing. I can't imagine a situation where Bobo comes in and allows himself to be told what to do and bossed around. Now, I know Kirby's the head coach, and in the end, everything is his decision, blah, 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 but he needs to get out of the offense altogether and hire a real offensive coordinator, and I think that's what Bobo is. If he ends up at South Carolina, I think that'll be a huge upgrade over anything South Carolina has had at offensive coordinator since Steve Spurrier left. I like Bobo as an offensive coordinator. Him and Kirby are best friends, basically. So Bobo has been announced as what? Has it really? Because there was a report last night that he had, and then it wasn't official, they said. Bobo was weighing his options or something before he signed the contract. So I'll check. If it's official, it's official. We'll see. But there was reports last night that it was a done deal, and that was not the case. So unless you've seen something early this morning that says otherwise. Let's see. Yeah, he has till Tuesday to make up his mind, so it's not official yet. Bobo to South Carolina. I mean, that's likely right now, but we'll see. If it's not, I don't know what. It's hard to. I have a lot of issues with Kirby Smart right now, and so I would like for him to do something to ease my mind, but until I see it, it's hard to. I'm not convinced he's even gonna get rid of Coley. Forget the whole Mike Bobo thing. I'm not convinced he's getting rid of Coley. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Valance, thank you for the super chat, Lou. If we lose to Baylor in the Sugar Bowl this year, I'm breaking my TV. Well, get ready to break it, sir. Get ready to break it. Especially if, speaking of Baylor, does anyone know their quarterback that got hurt in the Big 12 championship game this past weekend against Oklahoma? Is that something serious, or would he be back for this bowl game? Because he's really good. I hope he's back. I like watching good players play, and you always want the other team to have their best players and all that. Jake Fromm equals Hudson Mason. God, that's a scary reality to wake up to, isn't it? Kirby needs to show he's willing to adapt and change for better. I'm not convinced he will either. It's hard. Yeah, I mean, I'm not, I'm not one of these people that's ready to throw Kirby away or anything like that. He's still a young head coach in the grand scheme of things. He's clearly made a lot of mistakes, both in game in terms of decision making, and outside of that in terms of some personnel decisions he's made, both coaching and player wise. I'm not ready to throw him away yet, but he's got to realize that he's not always the smartest person on planet Earth, especially offensively. And, it might be time to for him to sit down, take a long look in the mirror, a long look inside of himself, because you can't keep dipping your toes in the water. Eventually, you got to jump in or just give it up. But we'll see. CFM3, thank you for the super chat. He says we should waterboard Kirby with tater juice to get some of these questions answered. It aggravates. Kirby seems not to take a lot of responsibility to me. He blames injuries. He blames whatever. And he got asked several times, what are you going to do with the offense? Our offensive game plan is to win each game we play each week, and blah, blah, blah. That's not an answer. You know what people are asking. Answer the question. And he won't. It's just I don't know. It's very frustrating. And then in the post-game press conference, I don't know if y'all saw it, but it was Kirby, Jake Fromm, and J.R. Reed at the post-game press conference. And they asked Kirby a couple of questions, and then they asked Fromm a couple of questions. And they asked Fromm, what's the deal here? Like, it hasn't looked good on offense. What's up? And Fromm started to give an answer, and Kirby interrupted him and said, well, we had a bunch of injuries at wide receiver and drop passes and blah, blah, blah. It's like, Fromm might have actually been about to take some personal responsibility there, and Kirby wouldn't even let him do it. It's like, he's got to make excuses for Fromm before Fromm actually says anything. Like, it was just, I don't know. It's just mind-boggling to me. So I don't know. Mike Bridges, thank you for the super chat. Matt Luke has OC and bring in Rich Rod. Bobo isn't coming home, but I sure wish he would. The thing about, and I also heard Bobo may have some issues with our AD. I don't know. You never know how much truth there is to that kind of stuff. But Valance, thank you for the super chat. I don't know if you watched post-game conference, but Kirby said he wants to win by running up the damn gut every first down. Well, he said he didn't actually say that. I did watch post-game press, not actually what he said. He wants to run up. It seems like that's what he means, though. I just feel like I get it that coaches have certain philosophies, right? And you recruit to that philosophy, and that's sort of the way you play. But at the same time, you have to utilize the talent that you have. We have good wide receivers. I'm honestly tired of hearing. I know Tyler Simmons and Matt Landers are bad, but those are like our 6th and 7th best wide receiver. So yes, of course, yeah, they're bad. I mean, I'll keep saying it and saying it and saying it and saying it. Demetrius Robertson had 700 yards receiving in 2016 with a quarterback that not a single one of you can name. He's not a bad wide receiver. Is he Jerry Jeudy? No. But the idea that you have to have 3 Jerry Judys on your roster for a quarterback to be successful is just insane. It's just insane. Come on. Vanderbilt scored 38 points against that same LSU team we just played. Okay? John Rice Plumlee, quarterback for Ole Miss. Do I think he's amazing? No. But here's what I do know. He's from Georgia. He wanted to come to Georgia his entire life. We tried to gray shirt him or blue shirt him or whatever the hell it is. Basically, we don't have a scholarship for you, but enroll anyway, though. Pay your own way for the first semester or two. And then when we have some players drop off or transfer and a scholarship becomes available, we'll give it to you later. That's what he was told. And he gave us one of these. And I don't blame him. Because he had plenty of scholarship offers other places, so I don't blame him. So where does he go? Ole Miss. Well, they played LSU this year, and he had 400 yards of offense himself. John Rice Plumlee had 400 yards of offense and 4 touchdowns himself against LSU. We have Fromm. And you have to listen, I love Dwan Mathis. But there's 2 things about Dwan Mathis. Number one, I don't know that he'll ever be cleared to play again. I hope he is, but I don't know that he will be. He didn't get cleared all this year. We'll see what happens in the offseason. We have Dwan Mathis, and we got Carson Beck coming in. And you got Fromm coming back. Here's what I know. Fromm is starting. Fromm is starting next year. Every game. Every game. Barring death or injury. That's just it. There is and will never be a quarterback competition at the University of Georgia as long as Jake Fromm is there. Conspiracy theories, whatever. You can want to go down those rabbit holes. I've been told everything from the boosters straight up told Kirby Smart Fromm is starting, period, last year when Justin Fields was there. I've been told that numerous times. I've been told that the plan right after the LSU game last year, right? We played LSU last year, lost 36-16. Fromm played like crap. I've been told the plan the next day. The plan was, okay, we have a bye week, then we play Florida. Justin Fields is starting. That's what I've been told this. And then the boosters got a hold of Kirby and said, no, Fromm is starting. Scrap that. And that people, and if you remember, Fields didn't play a single snap against Florida that year. Is any of that true? I don't know. I was told yesterday that Jake Fromm's parents host giant booster parties at their house on Saturdays. I don't know what it is, but what I do know is that Fromm is starting next year. Every single game, barring death or injury. Carson Beck could be a combination of Johnny Manziel and Peyton Manning. Jake Fromm is starting. Dwan Mathis could be the next whoever. Cam Newton. Jake Fromm is your starter. That's just what's happening. Kirby has made the Fromm bed, and he's going to lay in it until Fromm is injured, dead, or out of eligibility. That's just what it is. I meant to say Matt Luke has offensive line and Rich Rod as OC. Thoughts? I like Rich Rod as an OC, but here, I'm begging you, Kirby, please prove me wrong. Please, sir, prove me wrong. If Kirby goes out and hires any huge name as offensive coordinator, then that will prove me wrong. But until I'm proven wrong, I don't think it's going to happen. I think he wants a James Coley, somebody that he's known for 15 years, that he can boss around, that he knows is going to do exactly what he wants to do and isn't going to get crazy with the offense. That's what because that's what it appears to me is happening. So until something different happens, it's hard for me to buy into it. I'd love to. Rich Rod is OC. Bobo is OC. You name anybody. Any legitimate OC. But until it happens, it's hard to it's hard to put much faith or stock in it that it will happen. To me, Kirby seems very stubborn and stuck in his ways. I think he needs to do some changing philosophically. But again, we'll see. I think Kirby's an elite defensive mind. I think he's a great recruiter. I think he's turning into a pretty good in-game coach. Now, he didn't start out that way, obviously. I think he did. I think he's done much better. I think he did much better this year in-game coaching decisions than he's done any of his first 3 years. We stayed aggressive at the end of halves this year, end of the second quarter this year. There was no huge timeout blunders. There was one timeout blunder I can think of this year. That was it. So he has improved in some of those areas. But personnel, like, mainly deciding who the quarterback is, he has screwed up in an epic fashion. And listen, Kirby can coach at Georgia for the next 15 years. His name is forever going to be tied to Fromm and Fields. It's just what it is. You can't sign the highest rated player in the history of your program, misuse him for a year, then have him transfer out, go undefeated, win the Big Ten, win the MVP of the Big Ten title game, go to the playoffs, and be at the Heisman ceremony. You can't have all those things happen and then expect people just never to ask you about it. This is going to follow Kirby around for as long as he coaches. The only thing that would make it subside even a little bit would be if Fromm won a natty and Fields didn't. That's not happening this year. In fact, it could be the opposite that happens this year. So, anyway, all right. I'm going to end the stream, get started on the Your Season is Over video, which will be up sometime later this afternoon. Appreciate you guys tuning in this morning. There's almost 500 people watching. Misery loves company. Believe me, I completely understand that. If Georgia would have won on Saturday, there would be about 200 people watching. But because Georgia lost, it's like someone turned the light on and everybody scurried out. But like I said, I've been doing this for 5 years, so it doesn't surprise me at all. It's to be expected. So, but I do appreciate all of you guys tuning in, even if it was just to troll me or to troll in the comments section. I appreciate you guys watching. Remember, we do this show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 a.m. Today it was all football because there was, it was a huge weekend. Usually the morning show is split up, some football talk, some non-football talk, but we did all football this morning. But we do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 a.m. I'm thinking about, for 2020, expanding this morning show to 5 days a week. We'll see how it goes over the next month or so as the season starts to wrap up. If people are still watching, I'm going to do this show Monday, Wednesdays. I'm going to expand this show to all 5 days during the week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 8 a.m. The nighttime shows are call-in shows. So we have a phone system at night, Tuesday, Thursday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, and Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern. Those are all call-in shows. So if you haven't checked those out yet, make sure you check those out. Those shows are totally different. Well, you just have to watch. They're totally different than the morning shows. So anyway, that's what it is. So, but yeah, I appreciate you guys watching, though. I really do. Your season is over. We'll be out sometime later this afternoon. Have a good morning.